jumped on it right away when I got the download. And I was like, you sure you want to do this, Zuly? Because I've been knowing her for years, and her ego is pretty entrenched in her. And I know her very well, and she has started things, and she'll be off to a running start, and she'll get to a really high level in there. And I always say, well, Zuly, you'll get like 3/4 of the way there, and you'll slide right back down to the bottom of that hill and go totally backwards. So you sure you want to do this? So I welcome Zuly. How do you pronounce your name? I always
Zuly.
Butcher it.
Yeah.
No, the last name.
Quesada.
Quesada. I never say it right. Okay. Zuly Quesada. Okay. So Zuly, how has this been for you? Because today you're on the 18th day of a fast.
Yes.
So let's kind of take it from the top with the course.
Well, at the beginning of the course was like a little bit overwhelming because it was a lot of reading, a lot of meditation, a lot of vowels, and it just felt overwhelming. But then I got to sit down and think, okay, Zuly, this is not the first time that you go through an intensive course, and this is something good for you. So you better put your ego on the side and see how can you simplify this to work with it, because I'm a full-time employee, I'm a mother, so I need to still do my duties on those areas. But at the same time, I knew I needed to work on my spiritual life and especially on myself. So I started by...
Well, let's start there, though, because this was your first time doing Zuly.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
Because that has been your ego trick. Is everybody's ego, adapts itself to them.
Yes.
It's very sophisticated. It thinks it is. And it is clever.
It is.
And so your ego has always been about putting other people ahead of you. And that has always been the downfall of any time you tried to do something for yourself, then somebody else's ego would come in and hijack you.
Yes, correct. And this time it wasn't the exception. One of the weekends I was going to go take some stuff to my cousin.
Literally the first weekend where we were meeting for the class.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
Let's talk about that and how tricky your ego is.
Well, like Dr. Grant said, I always put people first before myself or my spiritual life. So then this was not an exception. I was going to go to Tijuana and take some stuff to my cousin, and then I texted Dr. Grant saying, Dr. Grant, I'm not going to be able to make it to class because I need to help my cousin. And she was like, no, Zuly, this is about you. And I didn't understand when she was telling me this until she broke it down for me in pieces.
Because she was saying, but I'm applying the principles of the course, and the course says we must be of service to others. Yes. And I'm saying, Zuly, but that means you must serve yourself first, because if you don't do you, then you cannot be any good to anybody else. And that just went like yes. right over her head. And even when I said, and Zuly, this is the main thing you need to work on is putting your spiritual growth first. And that is the primary tenet of the course, is that you cannot you can't move out of duality and return into singularity without having that first and foremost in your mind, is that I have to do me. And the first order of business has to be focusing on my spiritual growth, because if that doesn't come first, everything else is going to fail.
Yes, yes. And one of the things that Dr. Grant mentioned to me is, Zuly, that's not something that you need to work on.
You mastered that one, girl.
You got an A+. You are the master of that. If it was someone else, I'll be more than happy for them to go. But you need to work on making you a priority.
And certainly there are people in the course that I would have said, oh, child, please go down there and be of service, because you don't even know what that is. And wow, I'm so proud of you.
So I decided to stay. And of course, my ego was saying, Zuly, you're such a bad cousin. Zuly, you did this. So I was just.
But mind you, though, but wait a minute, let me throw this one in. This was after the second weekend where she had, the first weekend, I didn't say anything. I was just like, okay, let her go. It was the second weekend where I get the same text the next weekend saying, oh, I'm not going to make it this weekend either because I got to go back down there and help my cousin some more. And you only get to miss one meeting, okay, because you can Skype, you can call, but the group meetings are essential for learning the tricks of the ego and being able to have other people be a mirror for you. So she had already missed her one weekend, and then she just like texts me like, well, I'll see you later. And then that's when I had to be gentle but firm. And I knew I was also going to risk at that point that you were going to drop out of the course because I knew your ego. And do you remember in that text, well, I guess I'll just have to finish the course by myself. Well,
That
she
was the
sent me a
funniest.
nasty little text.
Yes. And I had to sit down that weekend and say, okay, I'm not going. I texted my cousin. I went into my little meditation room, and then I said, okay, what is it that I need to do here? What's my learning?
Well, let's back up because that was after we had to use critical thinking. Okay. Remember, and I had to say, now, Zuly, you do realize that you can still go down there to Tijuana, okay, after the class because we meet early enough, or you can go on Sunday. And her ego wanted to go early Saturday morning and go to Tijuana and get back by 4:30. And anybody who's gone down to Tijuana knows trying to get back from Tijuana and go through that border check, forget it. Okay, that could take all day by itself. And I'm going, now Zuly is probably one of the most logical, common sense people I know. And the fact that I'm giving her two common sense alternatives where she can actually do both, you know, because if she really just wants to be of service, that wasn't the issue.
Yes.
It was about Zuly taking care of her and putting her spiritual growth and her personal growth first. And you remember you rejected that when you were like, no, I'll get up at 5:00 in the morning on Saturday and go down there and do it.
Yes.
And I'll say, oh, and then you'll be here. And if you make it by the hair of your chinny chin chin, then you'll be so stressed out and you will be of no good to yourself or to anybody else. So I said, so X that one.
Yes.
But if this is what you want to do, then bless you.
Yes.
So I let it go.
And I think that was the beginning of my journey.
I
because-
let it go. I love you, and I'll be here when you're ready to do you.
Yes, and that was exactly what she said to me. So then I went into my meditation room and I said, okay, Zuly, what do you need to learn from this? And then all of Dr. Grant's words, and through all these years, she kept saying the same thing and I never listened. So then that came back during my meditation that it's like, Zuly, you need to start thinking on you first, what's best for you. And right now, this is the best thing for you. And then, you know, my ego starts talking to me like, oh, come on, you can just still make it back. And then I'm thinking like, no. Remember, you have known Dr. Grant for so long, and everything that she has advised you to do in your life, with your health, with your children, in every single area of your life, and you take it and apply it, it has really worked. So what makes you think that this will not work? And then that's when I said, okay, ego, you need to get your behind me and I have to start doing this. So then that was the beginning.
Yes, it really was.
Of my journey.
And it really is about humility.
Yes.
And I think that that's what we're talking about. And that's one of the principles that
surrender.
You have to surrender, you know, that pride.
Yeah.
And you must become filled with humility and wonder and awe like a child.
Yes. But I think that the first thing it has to be by for me, it was surrendering, because I had always been on the go, the strong mom, the strong daughter, the strong, employee.
There for everybody.
Yes.
Except Zuly.
Yes. So I got to realize that I needed to surrender and be okay with not being the strongest person for everyone, and to be strong for Zuly.
Well, and then on top of that, I had to remind Zuly, and this has been a wonderful example for everybody in the course, and we have Zuly's daughter sitting, in the studio, and she's a perfect witness to this, is because of all the stuff that you were doing for everybody else and not doing Zuly, you would go into wrath and rage and resentment because you were not making time for Zuly. So it was this crazy cycle of doing for everybody else, putting everybody else first, and then finally just blowing up because you're so exhausted and you're so tired and you feel so taken advantage of and so undervalued and unappreciated that you break down. And I know and I remember those cycles with those calls in the middle of the morning, late at night, with Zuly breaking down.
Yes.
And I'm sure your daughter remembers those.
I'm sure.
Don't you, Crystal? And it wasn't fun, was it? No. She says it was not fun. Yeah. Okay, so Crystal, and then I'll repeat the answer. So have you been paying attention at all? I know you're busy. To the shift when she finally, with the course, said, okay, I'm going to do me. Have you noticed any difference in her?
Yeah, I've noticed she doesn't react as much as she used to. Like once in a while it slips, but she catches herself and then
she's not as reactive.
Yeah, but she's not nearly as reactive.
So what Crystal said, and she has noticed that her mom is not as reactive and she doesn't go into those crazy rages, right?
Yeah. One of the things that I have noticed is that nothing matters. I don't know if this is the good time. Because
because you know what's important now.
Yes.
It's setting priorities.
Definitely. And setting myself and my spiritual life as a priority, it makes a big difference in all areas of my life. That's what I have seen so far. So.
And certainly, those of you who are seeing Zuly on camera, she is glowing. And we're getting ready to go deep, into the course. Because I have always gone deep, I'm not a surface dweller, right? And I'm going to take issue, and I have taken issue with a lot of the teachings that are out there and a lot of the pseudo-spirituality that's out there that's all about, just feel good, and that's all that it takes, and just be nice, and that's all that it's going to take, to ascend or to get enlightened or to be self-realized or whatever word you want to call it. Okay, it don't matter. Okay, I call it singularity and moving back into oneness because, everything is one. Everything is connected in the universe. And that's almost impossible. Not almost, it is impossible for anyone in their ego to get that. You cannot grasp the concept of singularity when you are in duality. It is only when you move out of it that you go, okay, I get a glimpse of this. But so what I'm going to challenge right now, and the reason why this is an aspect of the course, and Zuly can verify this, is now Zuly has her master's in social work, but you also did your bachelor's in psychology, right? Correct. Okay, and so as a therapist, you know, and I know how important therapy is. Yes. The problem with most of the therapy out there is that no one is really doing this holistically from a spiritual level and from looking at the ego, because everybody is telling you that, you can't live without your ego. Your ego is who you are. Now, I'm going to say this. We created the ego. Yeah. So how could something that we created to keep us, separate from God, to maintain this illusion, how could that be our friend?
Yes.
How could we need something like that? And what I say is that it's time for us to transcend that nonsense and that level of consciousness and that level of thinking and being, because you cannot move into oneness, become enlightened or self-realized, and take your ego with you, because your ego wants you to think that it can go with you. Okay. Yes. And if you're under that illusion, bless you. Okay. Because you got a hard, long road to go. But at the end of the day, you've got to look at your traumas. Yes. You've got to heal those psychological wounds and all of those fragmented aspects of yourself. You know, like, remember how you opened up and you called your spirit back? You got to call your soul back, your spirit, whatever you want to call it. You got to call it back. And you've got to retrieve all those parts of yourself that have been taken from you, that you abandoned, or that you just gave away.
Yeah. Yes.
And that all has to be put back together. And that's the aspect of this course. And for me, being a psychologist, I know that someone who is not really advanced in terms of applying spiritual techniques to psychological healing would not be able to teach this course.
Yes. Absolutely.
And so I'd like for you to address the profound psychological healing that has taken place in the course.
Yes. Well,
on so many levels.
Yes, I'm saying, I just have to say that we need to be at a point where we are in so much pain that we're tired of it. And
isn't that sad that it has to get that bad?
I mean, I wish I knew.
There has to be an easier way, right?
I wish I knew this other side, because, or get to that point
sooner, right?
Sooner, yes. Because now, I mean, it has been tears, a lot of tears.
And it's not a bad thing, because you have to break down in order to have a breakthrough.
Exactly. And some of my breakthroughs have been going to the class or going back home from the class, and Sanat Court, her music.
The music, oh my God.
The heart
and
of
the
universe.
music is the heart of the universe. Ooh. And the music is so critical to the course.
Yes.
You know, once you're in the course, you have access to this incredible library of materials, and her stuff is free on YouTube, guys.
Yes.
It is so, bless her heart. And Zuly bought me my first ticket to her concert live.
Yes.
And she is an angel.
Yes.
And I discovered Sanatam Kaur in India when the yoga teacher played her music in yoga. And I was laying back on my back, and she was singing The Long Time Sun. And I thought an angel had just come into the room.
Yes.
It's like that voice.
Yes.
So music is so therapeutic and so magical when it's at a really high vibration.
Plus, also, you need to surrender.
Yes.
And you need to embrace the music. You need to feel it, because I like her album, the
Heart of the Universe.
The Heart of the Universe.
And her album,
song.
Grace. Yeah, yes. I would recommend Grace and Heart of the Universe, because you need, see, right now, the seventh ray, the violet ray, is the ray of grace, compassion, mercy, and forgiveness. And Lord knows, is that not what we need?
Yes.
Right now, yes. In abundance. And that's what we're calling on in the course, is the law of grace and forgiveness and compassion and mercy for ourselves.
Yes.
Right?
So working on the curriculum, listening to the music, doing the vows, the prayer, the meditation, everything that she's guiding us through, I have had some really deep breakthroughs. That
unconscious stuff that was buried.
Yes, very unconscious. I remember one Saturday I was on my way to her house, and I break through and I call her, Dr. Grant, I don't think I can make it to your class. Why? What's going on? And I started letting her know.
She couldn't even talk. She couldn't even talk.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, where are you, Zuly? I thought she was, driving. And she said, oh, I'm a couple of blocks. Like she'd already pulled over and parked, and she was so close to the house. And so I just rushed out to meet her and just let her cry it out. And witnessed the pain, witnessed the suffering. And the most powerful thing about that, Zuly, is everybody, because you were willing to allow everybody else to embrace you and hold that pain and witness it with you, everybody started having tremendous breakthroughs with their own unconscious pain. And that night when you left, I could not sleep. I mean, I stayed up all night crying just for every child in the world that has been hurt. I cried for my own child, you know, that had been hurt and abandoned and abused and taken advantage of. And it's so important for us to acknowledge the suffering and the pain on the planet and not pretend that it doesn't exist, but also know that the work that we're doing on ourselves, our own spiritual growth, to move back into singularity and oneness with the divine and putting our ego behind us, that is the work that is necessary to help save the suffering children, because we're of absolutely no worth and no good to anybody on this planet if we are not taking care of ourselves and growing spiritually and evolving. What do we have to give?
And one of the things that I felt that it has been working for me is that I'm not trying to deny that it didn't happen, or I'm not trying to say, oh, yeah, that's it. No, I'm sitting on my pain.
You're honoring it.
Yeah, I'm honoring it, and I'm looking back at it, and I said, okay, I see it, I see the pain, but now let's move forward. And
but also, isn't that what made you the person that you are today? You are now a person who is you're a counselor for high school kids who are troubled. You know, at a continuation school, and don't you see yourself in those kids?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Every day. And every day I learn something from them.
And if you had not gone through that, would you really be the counselor that you are today?
No. Then the more I grow emotionally, spiritually, the more I'm able to help my students and go through
lift them up. Exactly.
Yes.
Not just like wallow in their pain, you know, because we're not talking about, you know, you have to identify with their pain, but at the same time, lift them above it. And how can you do that if you still have unconscious stuff that you are? See, I believe firmly in what Dr. David Viscott said, that you're only as sick as your secrets. And anything that is suppressed and hidden, that you're ashamed of, or that is so painful that you become schizophrenic about it, you will never be of real service to the planet, because your ego will use that as a hammer to beat you over the head with. Now, I'm not saying that you got to go and acknowledge everything that has ever happened to you to the whole world. But what I'm saying is that once you transcend it, you can use it as a teaching tool to be of service to those particular individuals that will show up in your life who need exactly what only you can offer them, because you've been there.
Correct.
And my suffering and everything I went through as a child, and the poverty and the lack and all of that has been for me to be the teacher that I am today. And I've stepped into my role, you know, as a spiritual teacher now. And that was something I've been avoiding for a long time, even though I was doing it, right?
Yes.
So funny how the ego is.
Yes.
And this has not been easy, right?
It hasn't.
It's extremely rewarding, but the ego does not make this easy.
I can say that it has not been easy, but every step of the way, you let go of one thing and you put in control your ego, and more light, more flowers, more love, more compassion,
joy,
more
right?
joy, more love comes to you. The other day was February 14, and I felt just so in love with everything. Like, I felt like if I have never gone high, but I think that's how it feels when people get
She
high.
texted me.
I'm like,
but that was the 14th day of your fast too.
Yes,
and
it was
and
the
she said,
14th day.
I just feel blissful and I'm so happy for no reason. I don't understand it. And I said, it's the fast.
Is this real? I asked, is this real? Because literally I felt like I was by myself. It wasn't like, you know, my children were there or my boyfriend was there. I was all by myself.
It wasn't a person that was triggering it,
no,
right? It was coming from within.
From within. And if I was to be an artist, and I would love to paint my heart how it felt and how it was so amazing. Literally, I have never in my life felt way. And everyone at work is like, the next day, this guy came to fix my computer, and he said, "How are you, Zuly?" And I said, "Oh, good. What about you?" And he's like, "It seems like you had a very good Valentine's Day." And then I said to him, "Oh, yes, I did. I actually went home and I went to bed early." And he's like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, my boyfriend wasn't home. He was out of the state, so I just went to sleep." And he said, "Well, and seriously, someone else would have thought that you had a really good Valentine's Day." And then I said, "Well, I really had a really good Valentine's Day." And then he said, "Well, what are you doing? You look very different." And I said, "Look, what I'm doing this course that it requires a lot of things, but it's for the good of my own sanity and my own heart and my own self-love." And he was like, "Well, whatever it is, send it to me because I need to work on that." So, and then that following day, someone else is like, "Zuly, you look amazing, this and that." I'm like, "Yes, I'm doing this course." Then yesterday, I see two students chit-chatting and looking at me, and I look back with a big smile and I say, "Hi, ladies." And then they're like, "Hi." And then they said to me, "We're talking about you." And then I said, "Oh, really?" And then I just embrace everything, right? And
exactly.
then,
Whatever. Bring it on.
Yeah. And
Bring
then I
it
said,
on.
"Oh, yeah, what's going on?" And then they're like, "Yeah, we were talking about you and we were saying that you are bold." So these are...
That you're what?
Bold.
Bold. B-O-L-D. Okay.
And then for me, English is my second language. Right away, I'm like,
What
am
is
I
that?
bold? You know, in my head. And they're like, no.
What does that mean? Am I being insulted?
Yeah, no. I didn't even took it that way. I'm like, maybe I right away my ego that fast. Your hair is falling and you're not even noticing, right? So then I went closer to them and I said, "What do you mean with that?" And because they said, no, you look good. Your hair is not like that. It's just you're bold. And I said, "What do you mean by that?" So they explained in their terms, you know.
Well, what did they mean?
Well, that I was cool, I was real, I was to the point.
Authentic.
Yes,
That's
but those
one
were
of the things you have to be.
Yes, but those were their words.
Bold.
You know? Bold. I'm like, "Oh, okay, no."
So you're keeping it real.
Yes. So,
And that is so important in the course for everyone to allow themselves permission to be their real self.
Yeah.
You know, because their ego self, everybody in the course at this point now is seeing through everybody's ego, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah, and we're not having any parts of it.
No, and it seems like the more we work on ourselves and the more, it's like if we are part of an onion, we're peeling
Yes,
ourselves.
the layers.
know,
And you
the
don't know
layers.
what's going to come up next.
Yes, you don't know, but it is true what Dr. Grant has always said. When you go into meditation, you're going to connect with your higher self, and he's going to tell you what to do step by step.
Yes.
And literally, I believe it was the second week of the course, and knowing how my ego is, I went into meditation and I asked for my higher self to tell me, what can I do in order to be successful at this course?
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And then that's
so you
when
asked for guidance.
Yeah. And that's when I was told you need to fast.
And 18th day today, right? A fasting.
18 day today.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so impressed. Now I'm on my 6th day.
Yes.
And you know, it's so funny. Usually it's the 3rd day that you get the really bad headache. It was yesterday, the 5th day, that I got the really bad headache. And I said, okay, I'm just going to work through this one.
Yeah. And one of the things that have worked for me is not only that her guidance through the fast, but also going into meditation.
Yes.
I literally, I'm not eating during my lunchtime. I go into my car and I do it.
If you were talking to someone about the importance of putting their personal growth and self-empowerment and their spirituality first, why would you say that is the number one priority that everyone should be focusing on right now, and especially their ego?
Yes.
Slapping the ego, setting boundaries.
Yes. Well, I think that it's important for us to focus on ourselves, our spiritual life, because you get to realize and you get to see the nonsense in the world and the people around you, even your own immediate family, but you don't see it as you become strong. You become like, how can I say, when you have like a shell, or no, not a shell, like a
You become more resistant
More
to what's going on. Resilient, too.
Resilient.
You bounce back.
yes, you
easier.
become more resilient, and you still love them and care for them, but you don't go.
Oh, you develop compassion, too, because
Yes.
that's another big aspect. One of the new students who joined the course yesterday, I was telling him, I said, you write this down, because he was having a hard time with forgiveness and compassion with other people's foolishness. And I said, what helped me was I look back on my ego and some of the things that I've done and how non-forgiving. I used to be like an elephant. You know, you did something to me, I never forgot it, and I never forgave you. But I got this thing where I look at other people and I go, but for the grace of God, there goes I. See, that could be me right now. And I have nothing but compassion for other people in their foolishness and in their darkness, because I look at it and I know, wow, that is such a painful place to be in. I feel so sad for you that you don't know any better, or that you do know better and you're choosing to be there, because there's so much misery, pain, and suffering there, and I want no parts of it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that was one of the many things that I have learned. I have also, I think that it's important that we focus on this, not only because it's good for ourselves, but it's good for our family, the planet, the
your
universe.
Friends, your students.
Yes,
your
my
clients.
Students. Yeah, exactly.
People are going to look. The people whose hearts are open, they will love you for this.
Yes.
Now, the people who are in their ego, you know, hey, what are you going to do?
Yes.
You're going to find some compassion for them. And I was telling Zuly this morning, people either love me or they hate me. There is no in between.
Yes.
And the people who are on the side of light, they love me.
Yes.
And people who are moving towards the light love me. People who love their darkness and are holding on to their ego, they absolutely hate me. I'm okay with that, but I don't hate them.
Yes, yes.
I got nothing but love for
Yes.
you. I got nothing but compassion. And I just pray for those people.
Yes.
And I send them light.
Yes, absolutely. You get, I mean, with this course, you get to understand that there's no priority other than your spiritual life, yourself, and the importance of healing not only yourself, your relationships, but the planet.
Absolutely. And so don't, I tell the students, don't be like Little Red Riding Hood and taking some wolf cookies, eating those wolf cookies in the basket. Because if anybody is telling you, just be nice and you're going to ascend, there's a lot more to it. Nice is good, and you do need to be nice, and you do need to be of service to others. But the way that you're doing it is by service to yourself first, your spiritual growth first. So that's what I'm going to close with, and that's why they tell us to put that mask on our face first when we're in an airplane, because if you asphyxiate, you can't save yourself or anybody else.